First item on the agenda is consider approval of the April 2nd regular session and April 2nd closed session minutes.
So move.
Motion by Councilmember Townsend, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Second is a public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider the adoption of demolition ordinances for multiple structures in the city's minimum housing enforcement program. Mr. Robinson, would you introduce that before I open the public hearing to the rest of the public?
Mr. Mayor, how would you prefer I do that? I've got a presentation here with the pictures and such, some information.
Let's
about
go
the
through all
properties.
of it.
Okay, and I'll try to go through these relatively quickly, considering we've got a lot of these to cover. If council will remember, we originally had about 15 of these we were trying to do this year. The first one, 1518 U.S. Highway 52, was demolished by the owner. We have two other houses. They're on one property there at the corner of Erie and Gibson, 428 Erie and 1140 Gibson Street. Those were unable to be inspected this this year, so we're going to add those on to next year. The remaining is 12 properties, and we have ordinances for you tonight for all 12 of those. Again, we felt that 15 was a relatively ambitious number. We want to go ahead and try to get what we could done with it, and I think we are going to be able to get a good number of these done one way or another. Real quick, this was the 1518. It is gone. These are the two on Gibson and on Erie. Next one up that we have to consider tonight is 531 Erie Avenue. Owner is Ms. Bessie Levon Kendall. As you can see, there are several issues with the property there. They're listed. I'm not going to go through each one of them. No work has been completed or building permits pulled at this time. Ms. Kendall has expressed interest in having the home burned by a fire department. She has had some concerns about the asbestos assessment and abatement if needed on the property, but told her we would discuss that with her once we got everything back. Here's some updated pictures of the property for you, and these are the ones that are included in the findings of fact from Mr. James Luster. He took these, and James is here tonight, as is Kenny Kendall from Captain Kendall from the fire department to help answer any other questions that I'm not able to. Next property is 513 Erie. This is owned by Mr. William Parker and Brenda J. Parker. They have expressed interest in saving this house. It's had no work done, no building permits pulled. Staff's of the opinion this one's in pretty bad shape. .608 Summit Avenue is owned by Bobby Rory and Pamela Rory. Mr. Rory, I spoke to him just about an hour ago, actually, and he does say that he wants to repair this property. There is no visible work that's been completed at this time. No building permits have been pulled on the property. Pretty much remains as you see it in the pictures here. And I think we had some on here before from some of the other rooms. If you remember those, they were pretty bad also. 1510 West Main Street. This is the heirs at law of Miss Mamie Honeycutt. No visible work has been completed. No building permits have been pulled. If you'll remember, this one is 2 doors down from the one that was demolished last year there at... it might have been 1506 or 15. No, maybe it was 1516 West Main Street, something like that. It's a brick structure. It is largely overgrown. There's been no work done on this. I don't think we've had any kind of representation present at these meetings where we've discussed this either. 519 Erie Avenue. This is the second one of 3 that is up for consideration tonight, and owned by the Lindsay Parker heirs, William Parker and Brenda J. Parker. The Parkers have expressed interest in having this one burned by fire department. They have, to our knowledge, done no work on it nor pulled any permits or anything at this time. This one, as you can see, is largely open to the elements still. 906 Elizabeth Avenue. This is Miss Fanny Wellborn Kelsey heirs. And the property owners, I've spoken with them, and they are working with fire department right now to have this one burned. I told them we were going to go ahead and do an ordinance on it just in case anything came up, and they understood that. And they are working with us on this. This one was previously, there was a fire here that was put out, so it's just in bad shape and really just needs to kind of be done, burned again in a controlled fashion, taken down. You can see some of the damage there. There is some evidence of some squatting going on there also. .425 East Oakwood. No visible work has been done, no building permits pulled. This one's missing the flooring on the inside, and there's several other issues with it, as you can see. Mr. James Wrights owns this. See the carport hanging down there. Some graffiti there. 527 Erie Avenue. This is another one of the Parker's properties. They have expressed interest in saving this home. Again, no work has been done, no building permits pulled. There was a car here in this picture. We don't believe that anybody is currently living there at this time, but if there's any questions about that, Mr. Luster could probably help out with that. .1404 Pennington Road. This is Mr. Oscar Henson's property. You can see the issues that were noted there. This one's a little bit different from the rest. It was originally considered by council in 2016. At that time, some additional time was given. It was held until last year when I believe an additional extension was given on the property. The owner did do some work and kind of stopped. They were fixing the siding and some of the roofing and some other things, but the work was started, never really went anywhere. I think it's been over a year since anything's happened on it. So these are the older pictures of the property.
I'd like to make a statement.
And when we get to it.
And then this is the condition of the property at this point, and it's been sitting at like this for about a year now. We've got 802. Some of the records have this as 804, so we put 802, 804 to cover our basis on this one. This is Mr. Henson's property also. Mr. Henson has expressed interest in repairing this structure. There is a letter in your packet on this one. However, no visible work has been done on the property, and no permits have been pulled, at least as of last Friday. This is immediately adjacent to it at 808 Hill Street, also owned by Mr. Henson. Again, this one he's also expressed interest in repairing. Don't have as many extensive pictures of this. This does have a pretty good infestation of bees at this time. I'm not sure what type, but it's made closer inspection of some of these parts of the house difficult, but looking through the windows, it appears to be in pretty poor condition also. 703 Eford Street. This is Mr. Wilbert Deese and Miss Linda Deese. I spoke with Mr. Deese right before, and he is wanting to cooperate with fire department to burn this structure down. He said he was not going to come to the meeting at this time for that reason. He did look into actually having some work done, and when the contract, the estimates came back, it was a little bit too much, so he doesn't want to go ahead and work with the fire department to comply on abatement with this. So those are the properties. I have these 12 listed here, and this is kind of a timeline that we're looking at right now. If these were all approved, We have received asbestos abatement back on, I've got 9 here, there's actually 10. It looks like we've got 7 of those so far that do have asbestos. However, after talking with Captain Kendall, I think probably at least 4 of those that we're looking at are a very minor thing that doesn't even actually have to be taken care of and addressed at the state level. But we're going to double check on that. Also, fire department can burn all but 3 of these, those being West Main Street, 425 East Oakwood Avenue, and 527 Erie Avenue. So you have your estimated timeline for completion there. Fire department could begin anytime, basically in May, if an ordinance was done on these. And they would pretty much have, as long as they need to do the burns, we would expend our budgeting to prepare them for that ahead of time, and then they could do that as they're able to get those permitted with the state. The other 3 that we have, we'd like to get completed in May, and for the one that does not need abatement, and the 2 that may need abatement, we probably need until July to get those demolished.
Council, have any questions of Kevin before we move forward?
Before we move on, whenever we do hear, though, Your Honor, if at all possible, for instance, if there's discussion on one of them, would it be appropriate for Kevin to bring up that picture up on the screen as we were talking about it? Okay, and I would ask that you do that, Kevin, number 1. And number 2, may I follow up?
Sure.
The 3 that the fire department could not do, why are those? Why is that a could not?
And Captain Kendall can answer that. There's a couple different, I think it's primarily due to exposure on certain sides of the structures, but there may be a couple other issues.
Potential damage to other structures.
Other houses.
Yeah.
Those are
Right,
very
that's right.
tight.
Okay, so that's the reason.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank
Kevin,
you.
at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned 3 properties that we didn't get the inspections done. You mind giving me them addresses again?
Yeah, it was actually 2. 1518 U.S. Highway 52, we didn't need to do anything with that. As soon as we began the process, that was Sonny Beecham's property, and he's been saying for a couple years that he was going to demolish that, so he went ahead and had that done. The other 2 are on one parcel right there in the corner of Erie and Gibson. They're 2 houses. Okay. One is on Gibson and the other one faces on Erie, and we just weren't able to physically get inside the building to do an inspection at this time.
What's your plans there? Because this is the second time I know that those 2 houses have been on the list. And
probably, I don't know what happened last time they were on the list. I think that might have been. I don't think those were ones that I did, but
that was before you.
Yeah, so I'd have to double check and see what happened then. But we'll probably have to go and get an administrative warrant to get in there and have a look.
We'll have to proceed with that. The council gave them some extra time last time on those houses.
Okay, all right. I wasn't aware of that.
So that's the 428 Erie and 1140 Gibson.
Yeah. And I would just preface it. I think everything we've got on this list is some of the worst properties that we have. I don't. I guess it could technically be possible to fix any of these, but by and large, I really think we're if we don't go ahead and proceed, we're really just kind of kicking the can down the road with a lot of these, unfortunately.
Okay. This is a public hearing. I'm going to go house in order as we have them here on our list, on our council list, and ask you to come forward if you want to speak. The first one is 531 Erie Avenue. Anyone care to speak for or against? 513 Erie Avenue. Anyone care to speak for or against? 1510 West Main Street. Anyone care to speak for or against? 519 Erie Avenue. Anyone care to speak for or against? 906 Elizabeth Avenue. Anyone care to speak for or against? 425 East Oakwood Avenue. Anyone care to speak for or against? 527 Erie Avenue. Anyone care to speak for or against? 1404 Pennington Street, Pennington Road, actually, I think that's called. And Mr. Henson, I think you wanted to speak. Come forward.
On this 1404 Pennington Road, I got a permit to fix this house.
Sir, can you speak in the microphone a little bit there?
I sure will.
Thank you.
I got a permit to fix this house a couple of years ago, and or last year. No, I believe it was in 16. And I thought there was going to be one seal and some painting to do. And I already had a permit when y'all come out with it. And I got this boy up there doing some carpenter work for me. And I figured to put in one seal. I had a contractor's license. He put in a seal for me. And then there was place swagged in the floor and back in the bedroom. Well, I'd already spent $2,000 or $3,000 on the house with what all we'd done. I was changing the windows. So we got back there. It's sort of like taking a car to a garage. You get one thing fixed, and then you got another, and you ask yourself, where do I stop? Do I stop now and lose this money that I've put in it? So we wound up putting in all the seals about it in the floor, brand new treated seals where the termites got in it. You know, it was going to be fixed right or not at all. Well, in Christmas time, tax come up. I run out of money. And I had spent between $12,000 and $15,000 on the house. And I had supposed to be one of my friends come down there, and he was on tear the porch off to where the seal wouldn't rot out again on the front. And so happened the boy that had turned me in on this thing, he lived beside of him, and this backhoe man done work for him. Well, he messed up my porch. He fixed it. He didn't just pick up the cement, and I already had it cut off to where I could have took all the blocks off, poured another piece of cement. But they was buddies, and he was against me. Mr. Robinson back here, he broke his arm up there. And it was like a personal vendetta against me the whole time that I was going on this house. Well, I got a hold of some more money. And I started back on it again, or was fixing to start back. And I got a letter from Mr. Luster that I had, he come out there and looked at it, seen what all I had done. I showed him. I had 2 months to fix the house in. I'm going to tell you, I was in worse shape then than I was before I started on the house. In my mind, in other words, I didn't know I had all that to do to the house. I didn't know the seals was rotting back there where I couldn't crawl up under, and it was about on the ground. And he said, you got 2 months to finish it. I done worked on the house 5 months or more, rewired it. I mean, you know, we was working, putting new windows in it. And there wasn't no way I was going to put more money in this house, and I couldn't get it done in 2 months. So what would you do? I had to quit. I had the money to fix the thing, but I had to quit. I couldn't get it done in 2 months. I liked more than I did when I went up there the first day. But I had done a whole lot more. I spent $12,000 to $15,000 on it, so I just shut down. There wasn't nothing else to do. They wouldn't let me finish it. So that was on that house.
Council have any questions, Mr. Hanson?
I'd like to go back and finish my house. Know where I spent $12,000, $15,000 and I got messed up everywhere I went. It's all true, believe it or not.
Mr. Luster, would you come up?
I think the only question I have is of Mr. Hanson is when is the last date you did anything with that house?
Christmas.
Of 16.
I
think I heard you say
Christmas of 16.
16.
That'd
That
be
was the
right.
last
Yeah, I
year.
didn't do
Okay.
nothing on it last year.
Okay.
But what was it got? It ain't, when I quit, I didn't have 2 months when he come and looked at the house, probably March. And I'd rented a building down here on 52 and had enough money to finish it. I rented a building for 5 years. Got all the money at one time.
Okay.
Had enough money to finish it.
Mr. Luster?
Yes.
In your inspection, when was that, and what did you see had been accomplished?
The initial inspection was back in 2016. Most of the seals, most of the foundation of the floor system was in pretty bad shape. The front wall section was pretty much rotted out from a roof leak at the front entrance of the house, and that had gone down the front wall section, rotted out all the seals, joists in the front end of the house. So that was the majority of the problem. It got to the floor system and it just deteriorated from that point.
What has he done at this point, do you know?
replaced some seals and floor joists around the perimeter. Spent a good bit of money to do that, but there's so much more work that still needs to be done.
Okay. Council have any questions?
I just have, Mr. Robinson, would you come up, if you would, and show us the pictures of that particular house?
Yeah, so we showed the original pictures. I included those from findings of fact that James pulled together. I think this is 2016. Is that right? The original?
You was over the last time.
Yeah.
Last time in 2017.
Sorry, I got a bunch on here.
That's the reason I'd like to see them
Yeah.
as we're talking about.
So this is the original. So a lot of the original siding was on there, and then this is where it is now. And this was a couple months ago, I think, before the last update that we provided y'all that we took these pictures.
So in 17? Would it be
No, I think it was February maybe.
of this year?
Yeah, when we gave the last update.
Okay.
This is when these pictures were from. I didn't go back out again.
So it appears that there are new windows at the front with no siding, but is that the only? That's what it appears.
Also,
They
if
put
I,
it in there and plywood, finish the floor system.
Mr. Henson, you also mentioned that you had done some wiring. Was that anything that we looked at?
Storm come and that's what put the house in shape it was in. Is when Terry was renting, and a storm blew the tree down, and they, rather than hook the power back up, they just unhooked the power from my house. So we had to run power from the other house, or put up a service pole out there to get our power off.
How much of the house was damaged due to the storm?
It wasn't damaged due to the storm, except tearing the electrical part off the weatherhead and the house all been replaced and rewired.
Mr. Luster, what's your estimate on what it would take him and how long it would take him to fix this house?
This would be a ballpark estimate, but I would think at least 30 to 40,000
And
for
time-wise?
complete renovation. 4 months.
Council have any further questions?
Mr. Robinson, would you back up pictures to show not just the outside, not just the structure, the outside of the structure, but within? And if Mr. Lester can tell us, are these pictures the original pictures, James? Are these the original pictures?
These were original pictures back in 2016.
16. And in your opinion, have you been inside the house?
What has happened at this point is, as Mr. Henson went in to make repairs, he tore out a lot of this. So a lot of this is open floor now. The seals had to be replaced along the exterior walls. So a lot of that, the pictures you see now, a lot of the floor system have been torn out to replace those seals.
Even in the bathroom areas?
I'm not sure about the bathroom area, most of the exterior walls.
Okay.
So Mr. Luster, if I'm understanding right, the condition of the house now is worse than it was in 2016.
The floor system, support system, yes, is in worse condition.
System is better, but they're not no floor and they're only new seal. Give me 2 months to think about it.
You've got open floors and the crawl space is exposed.
Mayor, while Mr. Henson is here, and you may have already called these addresses as you're going line by line, but have you already called the Hill Street property?
No, I'll go to them after we finish this one.
Mr. Luster, how close to the ground are the floor joists and the sill around the house?
At the front entrance, you're looking at 3.5, maybe 4 feet, but as it gets back to the end, you've got a slope, and you're looking at maybe 18 inches or so as it gets to the rear end of the structure. That's where that back seal was not accessible, and we really couldn't tell how much damage was there until you pulled it out from the inside.
That still has the potential, being that close to ground, to absorb ground moisture regardless of being treated or not. You can't stop moisture from getting in there. What about the airflow through the crawl space with the vents? Is there enough airflow that would go through there?
On the front and sides, the airflow is fine, but on the back end where it's low, yeah, you got issues there.
Mr. Henson, based on what Mr. Luster said, estimated 30 to 40,000, probably 4 months for completion. In a good faith effort, where do you see yourself as far as what portion of that could you get done in a reasonable time?
Right now, I've run into some hard luck and I'm busted. I'm broke now. I could have done it at that time. Right now, I haven't got the money.
Okay.
Do what you want to do.
Gotcha.
That's what you're going to do anyway. You're going to do what you want to do.
Council, have any more questions on the Pennington Road? Okay, I'll move on to 802 and 804 Hill Street. Anyone care to speak for or against on those?
You got anything you want to say? Well, I got something.
Sure. Step back over to the mic and he'll let you have it.
I forget about these mics. I figure you got enough, you can hear me good enough, but I'm glad to talk to the mic. Let me tell you, I got a thing in the mail about these houses and was supposed to be up there on April the 19th to meet Mr. Luster. And I was. And me and him talked, and I told him what I wanted to do with these two houses. The houses are in good structural condition. There are no seals rotted out or termites in these seals. House has been there for probably close to 100 years. They ain't good, as far as the floor and the structure and the walls, they in good shape. And I told him, I said, I'm not able to do nothing right now, but I'd like to sell this property. There was 4 houses on that thing at one time. And they 4 sewer taps and 4 water taps. I would like to see, I wrote y'all a letter. Did y'all get the letter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wrote the letter asking you to give me a chance to sell these houses to somebody that could fix them up. I'm not able to fix them up right now. And I heard, the next thing I heard, that I had 15 days. I heard it on the second day of April. It was on March 19th, I guess, when yeah, it was on March 19th. I made a mistake. On March 19th is when I met with him. Well, I wrote the letter, and then on Easter Monday, April the 2nd, I got here comes the mailman with a letter, and I got to the 15th of the month to tear these houses down or redo them. Nothing was said about the letter that was sent. And like I say, I hadn't got the money to fix them right now. But I have fixed up some houses in the city. Last time you had me up here, I fixed 2 up on Old Parker Road, and we come out good on them. And I've got some money that's coming in, but I ain't got it right now. You know, quite a bit of money. We're off of 2427 down there. And I'd like a chance to sell these houses. Somebody could go in there and fix them up pretty reasonable. I mean, there's some people that ain't got enough sense to see how much that a person could do if they get in there and work. And at one time, I could take an old house and fix it up to where I could rent it. And none of the stuff I ever bought was brand new, or I wouldn't have had it. What I got is what nobody else wouldn't have to start with. But I made money off of it. I'd like a chance to sell these houses and give somebody a chance to fix them up. I can put 4 sale signs up in them.
Council have any questions of those two?
Just a question, Mr. Luster. Or you may be able to answer it, Mr. Henson. When the first communication on these 2 houses was started?
I'm going to say it was in the first thing that I got in the mail was sometime probably last of February or 1st of March.
Last year?
No, this year. This year. What got me is I didn't have it 2 weeks to do it, and I didn't get a letter to the second day. And I had 15 days to the 15th day, which run out yesterday. 15 days to tear 2 houses down. Well, bulldozer couldn't hardly tear them down in that, or burn them and get the foundations up. I mean, that was real nice. I really, he got all the heart, Mr. Robinson. He's all the heart, boy. I'm here to tell you. He went on, now you got me right. He went up there on Pennington Road. He got a buddy up there, Mr. Hamilton. And him and Mr. Hamilton, they in cahoots, believe me. They really in cahoots. That's his buddy. And the old bulldog got at her, and the fella beside him had a bulldog, and he broke his arm. He was in there trying to break in the house. The house was locked. The bulldog got at him. I didn't know the bulldog was up there. Broke his arm. Well, you know, I offered to pay for his arm. I offered to pay for this man's arm. And when this boy turns on him, Mr. Hamilton, it's going to be like a mad dog. He come up wanting some property rezoned to where he could put a shop up there. I didn't show up. I think a man would be able to do pretty well what he wants to his own land. But after he got in there, he stuck over the road now. He's all hard. I don't want, he might be Mr. Robinson, buddy, but I can do without friends like that, and I'm going to be honest with you.
Mr. Lester, when was your first notification on this house?
Thank you.
We actually issued a courtesy letter in 2016, and that we did not follow through with any complaint notice and finding of fact at that time. Case came back up again in 2018, and we sent another letter in January of 2018, site visit, and then held the hearing in March.
May I follow up?
Sure.
2 follow-ups. Kevin, will you come bring up that picture of that house, please, that we're in discussion of 202 and
About 1404 now.
802 and 804. And so, Mr. Luster, so the first courtesy letter was in again in 2016.
16.
And that, what does a courtesy letter entail?
Courtesy letter is a notice requesting a site visit and meeting on site with the owner.
Okay.
And at that time, we try to talk with the owners to find out what their plans are for the property, time frame for compliance, and then see if there's something that we can do to work with the owners on the front end. If we don't get any cooperation, we move on to the complaint notice.
What was the next step then after that?
Issuing the complaint notice and holding a hearing at City Hall.
Okay.
Mr. Luster, on these 2 houses, what would you estimate the cost to repair them, bring them up to code, if you will?
Again, this is a ballpark, but $30,000 to $35,000
Per?
unit.
Do you have a contractor's license?
I have a building inspector's license.
A building inspector's license?
Follow up. So this is only one house on this piece of property. Is that correct?
This is one house on this property.
Okay.
There was some questions.
Okay, yeah, okay,
So
that's okay.
there's
Just
one
house.
there's one house.
Okay.
Just want everybody on the same page. Thank you.
So between the 2, we're looking about $75,000 to fix.
Go ahead and bring up 808 Hill Street while you're there, so they can see that also.
They right side by side, look like twins.
This is the Kent.
Yeah, that's the other.
That says 804. It's
But this is actually 808.
yeah, sorry.
So with that, now there's 3. What would, we're at 75 now, approximately, just ballparking. So we had the 3rd one on there, another 35 or so.
Pretty much.
I'm not asking to fix these 2 houses up.
The reason for my question is if you sell it, you know, I would have a hard time buying a house that I'm going to have to spend 1 to buy it, 2 to fix it, and have more in it than what I could get out of probably renting it. Would you not have a better chance to sell it if the structures weren't there?
Like I say, the framing in these houses are good. The framing's good. And somebody could go in there and fix these houses up and be able to put 2 more on this land, this tract of land. There was 4 on it when I bought it. One burnt down, and I had insurance on it. And the other one burnt down while Mr. Michaels was chief of police. And it wasn't never nobody found who done that. I had no insurance on it. At the same time, I had one burnt down at 710 Rogers Street. And, you know, I didn't have no insurance on it, and there wasn't nobody found about that. I was told by policemen who done it, but there wasn't nothing done. And at about the same time when I got windows knocked out everywhere. Windows knocked out everywhere. I don't exactly understand it, because I never had one knocked out except during somebody living in the house and got made in through the brick, through the window or whatever. But this was just pure vandalism, the rocks through from the outside. I got several places like that over there, several places like that. And then knocking them out, you know, as fast as I can put them in. I can't sit there and guard the places at night when I'm asleep. That's when it gets done.
Anyone else care to speak for or against on 808 Hill Street? And we'll move on to the last house. Anyone care to speak for or against 703 Eford Street? Please, sir. Okay, council, we've given a chance on every house. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I'm not sure. I think someone's here to speak on 608 Summit.
I didn't hear that address.
Yeah.
I think we said that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
That's
it was
six- okay. 608 Summit. Anyone care to speak for or against?
No, he went by.
Where we at here?
By the one that Kevin's.
Bear with me there.
608 Summit.
It's Elizabeth. There we go. Sorry.
I'm here. My name is Michael Townsend, and I'm here to speak in representation of Bobby Rory on the 608 Summit Avenue property. And basically, we're asking for an extension to do basically curb appeal, something I feel we could probably do within the next 30 days, and then to actually start work on the construction of the foundation of the structure after that. I've worked with James on the other property of Mr. Rory's, and we completed that. So we're just actually basically asking for an extension for first a curb appeal, and then within, say, 45 days, start on the structure, starting with probably the windows and the roofing, and going from there.
Council's have any questions?
I have some questions of Mr. Luster.
Okay.
Might I? Mr. Luster? Again, if you can give us when the first letter of notification or whatever you call that first letter on this house
Okay, Curtis letter, and this is a second round for this property as well. This one was another.
for this property.
Yes.
So go back to the first round. When was the first round?
That was back in 2016.
Okay.
And the second round started in January of 2018.
Nothing done between,
No work done between the 2-year period.
same type of letter sent,
That's
but no
correct.
work done.
No work completed.
All the questions that I have.
Did the property owner actually promise us that he was going to do something, or did council delay it in 2016?
In 2016, I think a request for an extension was requested. I don't believe that was approved, but I'll have to go back and check the file on that.
Yeah, I don't recall the property owner coming forward. I may be wrong.
Request for extension would have been filed with you or with planning, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Robinson regarding this property. You said that you spoke with Mr. Rory earlier today or this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did he indicate any intentions for the property?
Yeah, said that he wanted the same thing this gentleman said, that he wanted to fix it up, and that I think he had mentioned a property he had done on Lennox there.
Okay.
I said before, I've worked with James on that project, and hopefully anything that comes up in Mr. Rory's name, we're going to try to take care of. Finances is a situation, but I myself is doing some of the work, and him living in Maryland, it's a little hard to kind of get it all coordinated, but we're working to do that. And just basically asking you guys for the time to have it done.
Follow-up question.
Sure.
Bill's got one that I'll follow.
Yes, yes, sir. I'd just like to ask, what is the reason for the delay? If these letters were sent out in 2016 and nothing has been done, it's now 2018. Can you tell us why there's been such a delay?
I'm assuming, and Bobby's been sick over that period of time. He's had some medical situations. I personally came on board. It's a family situation, and I came on board about a couple of years ago to try to help out with some of the situation and all the properties, as well as Mr. Rory, my own, and some other family relatives. So I can't really speak on behalf of that, except for I could say that he's been sick, and I know he's had some financial difficulties, and that's where I step in at.
Thank you.
Did you say he was living in Maryland?
Yes, sir.
Right here it says his address is 131 South Cotton Avenue, Albemarle, North Carolina.
Well, sir, he owns several properties. That's one of the houses that actually that's where his mail is sent. Another family relative is there, and that's where he receives the mail for that property. But I'm
Further
sure
questions?
I guess, who owns this property, James?
This is owned by Bobby and Pamela Emerald.
Okay, so, and what is your name?
Michael Townsend.
And what is your connection with this family?
I'm his first cousin.
But you're not an owner of either property?
No, it's his properties.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just a worker.
I got you.
Further comments? Anyone else care to speak for or against any of these addresses we've discussed tonight?
Move that public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hall to close the public hearing, second by Councilmember Aldridge. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? I'm going to go down the list that's in our agenda one by one, and council will decide on each ordinance. 531 Erie Avenue, Ordinance 1808.
Move to approve ordinance 1808.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dry, second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. 513 Erie Avenue, Ordinance 1809.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 608 Summit Avenue, Ordinance 1810.
Move to grant extension.
Do you want to put an amount of time on there?
Say 3 months
And what's to be done?
to start curb appeal.
To start curb, nothing else?
Not at this time.
Not to pull permits or anything?
Give 3 months that we try to get some more work done on the actual project there. I mean, it's a lot. All these houses have been in this shape for a long time. They've been sitting there for quite a while. So I'd recommend we get
Mr. Luster, typically, if you give an extension, do you require them to pull a permit in a certain amount of time?
We don't request a permit be pulled within a certain amount of time, but during the hearing, we always notify the owners if they want to request an extension to provide us with detailed information on over a 30-day period, these are the items that you'll have completed. And over the next 30 days, these are the items you'll have completed. So we'll have a track record so we can track the progress of those repairs. I tell that to every owner that comes into the hearing, and that's documentation we can provide to City Council for your references. So we were hoping that anyone requesting an extension today would have that documentation presented to you prior to this meeting.
I want to say, we promise that we're going to try to work with expeditiously.
If they've been told by Mr. Luster to bring that, council, it's your decision. If you want to continue, should we not continue it for another meeting to give them a chance to bring that?
Or could, I'm going to play devil.
Sure.
I mean, we're here tonight. Everybody knows we're here tonight. Mr. Townsend, upon your own testimony, you said you wanted a certain amount of days to do curb appeal. I think you said 45, 30. If they could leave and come back at the end of this and we could make that specific. I know Mr. Townsend our Mr. Townsend's motion
relation.
does not have a second yet, but during the next hour, could they go out and really nail that down and bring that back so we could finish this particular one?
I'm open to council's.
Is that okay with you, Dexter?
If he can make contact with Mr. Rory.
In the next 5 minutes, we will let you all go out into a room and work on making that so that we can fulfill what Mr. Luster wants to bring back to us. That's what I would say. Is that okay with you, Dexter?
As far as give some sort of illustration and details as to what can be accomplished in that time frame.
We'll hold 608 Summit Avenue open at this time.
Is that okay, Dexter?
1510 West Main Street, ordinance 1811.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 519 Erie Avenue, ordinance 1812.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hughes, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. 906 Elizabeth Avenue, ordinance 1813.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 425 East Oakwood Avenue, ordinance 1814.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Dry.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Whitley. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 527 Erie Avenue, ordinance 1815.
Move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Hughes, second by Councilmember Bramlett. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 1404 Pennington Road, ordinance 1816.
Move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Hall,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. 802 or 804 Hill Street, ordinance 1817.
Move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Whitley,
Second it.
second by Councilmember Bramlett. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 808 Hill Street, ordinance 1818.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. 703 Eford Street, ordinance 1819.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, who said that one? Dry. Motion by Councilmember Dry, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. Council have any other comments?
I just would say Mr. Luster is finished now. If he can, Mr. Townsend could go and when you finish something, come back and we will just add it into the agenda. Is that okay, Your Honor?
That's fine. Under announced delegations, number 3, Mr. Peter Asciutto for a presentation on Stanley County Schools.
Hello there. Just want to thank y'all for having me tonight. I'll try to be as fast as possible. I think I sent y'all a packet that you probably have, and I tweaked it a little bit because what I was trying to do is trying to always condense it and make it more readable.
I just sent a text.
Get back to the beginning here. Anyway, I appreciate you allowing me to come speak. And a lot of people just introduce why I'm doing this. A lot of people ask me, why am I taking the time to do this? And honestly, I'm doing it because I'm tired. You know, I was about a month and a half ago, I was at the Chamber of Commerce. They have the Stanley County Managers meeting every month, and they have the managers from the different manufacturers around in different places, and they were doing a presentation. Ms. Balfour was doing it from NC Works, and once again the topic of education came up, and once again the topic was the workforce and having a hard time getting people to pass the required tests to get into some of these companies. I've heard it from Michelin, heard it from that, and then I got to thinking, about the school being out of money, and I'm tired of the school being out of money. The biggest thing I'm tired of the fights about education. Anytime you talk about doing something to move the schools forward, there's big fights among the community. So what I decided to do was gather a lot of information that I learned when I was a county commissioner and share it with the elected officials around the county. I'm speaking to every municipality except for Oakboro. They graciously turned me down and said they didn't really need to hear it. And then I'm speaking to civic groups and everything else. And hopefully with this information, people get a different perspective and not just make decisions based on emotions or based on one simple thing. Because, this Councilman Whitley was on the school board. It's not a fun job, and it's a very complicated issue. And it's not the school board's fault that we're in this situation we're in. People blame the school board, they blame this one. There's just a lot of factors involved to get us where we're at today. So, here we go. First of all, this is the school trend. The numbers don't lie. 15 of the last 16 years, we've lost attendance. And we went from 10,000 down to 8,200 as of today. That's quite a drop. And we might grow next year, because if you look at the classes, the kindergartens through the senior class is like the smallest class in the system. However, the junior class is the largest class in the system. So after 2 years, whatever we may pick up, you're probably going to lose in 2 years. And that's just looking at the numbers. Here's our current enrollment levels in the elementary schools. They've kind of stayed the same over the years. And what I'm looking at, this is a chart on capacities. And if you look at the capacities, you go up there at Central Elementary School with 532 kids. They're like Central's at 595 kids. They're at 97% capacity. And here we are, we have all these schools that from 223 kids, 301 kids, and no one seems to worry about one school having 575 kids. That's and then if you look at the capacity, we have 3,988 elementary school students, and we have room for 5,355. And if you look at that, compared to capacities, we have 1,367 empty desks or room for kids in the Stanley County school system, just in the elementary school level. And if you take away the mobile units, it's 1,076. And the reason I use mobile units is because the current school board, they all complained about use of mobile units. Well, they have the power to get rid of them if they want to. So, but that's the way that is. And then now just a little note here with the elementary schools. I know there's a talk of going to K3s and having reduced sizes of K3s. I had lunch today with Superintendent Dr. James, and he made the comment that they looked at that and they would probably need 28 more classrooms to fulfill that in the future. But if you look back at the numbers, you have a lot of schools with a lot of empty seats. There's 200 empty seats, I think, down there in Aquadale. So then if you look at the capacity, going back to capacity levels, I've added, the school system still has property at Ridgecrest and at North Albemarle. And if you look at that, we have, for the elementary school capacity, we have room for another 2,166 kids. That's with mobile units, and 1,800 without it. Moving on to the middle schools. Look at this. If you look at the middle school sizes, they've dropped about a couple hundred since 2015. And you look at the capacity, Albemarle Middle School has room for 604 kids. They have 358 students at Albemarle Middle School. West Stanley, they have room for, they're at 73% capacity, and North Stanley Middle's at 84% capacity. And you look at the high schools, Albemarle High School. As of February, they had 396 kids. I remember calling a football game when they saw those ADM numbers. That's the first time I saw ADM numbers. This was years ago. And that list where Albemarle one time had 690 kids in that school. And now they have 396 for a school that holds 700 and I think it's 760 students. And Albemarle High is running at 52% capacity. North Stanley, 64% capacity. South is 74% capacity. West Stanley is 68% capacity. Now, opportunity for kids, and this is for kids that go to college and kids that don't go to college, because every kid's not going to go to college. And how can anyone say that those kids at Albemarle High School are getting the same opportunities they had when 10 years ago they had 690 kids there? You know, and the same with West Stanley. West Stanley used to have over 1,000 students. Now they have 700 students out there. And how are those kids getting the capacity, you know, getting the class opportunities? Now, one thing they've tried to do to alleviate the issues of class opportunities, kids used to have to drive their own cars to the other schools. Now they're taking them in buses to other schools, so kids can take, at the high school level, can take classes at other schools. And you still wonder about the efficiency of that. Is you hear that the bus, you know, they leave Albemarle or whatever school and they go, by the time they get to West Stanley, the classes always started, and then by the time they get back, they miss some of their classes here. You know, how efficient is that? And if you look at the high schools and the middle schools, we have 794 empty desks at the middle schools, and we have 1,204 empty desks at the high schools. That's a lot of room for growth. And then if you look at at our system, and this is just the 19 traditional schools. I've kind of left Stanley Early College out of this presentation and the Stanley Academy because that's a whole different thing. But we're running at 70% capacity without mobiles and 75% with mobiles. And then you look at this as a state comparison. Our average elementary schools has 362 kids compared to the state average of 493 kids. Middle schools, 496 compared to 634 for the state. And our high schools, we're pretty much an average half the size of the average high schools in the county. Now, I know that these numbers include Stanley Early College, and they also include Stanley Academy, so that brings the average down. But all these other school systems have schools like that, and that brings their average down also. So if you know. And then one thing, this is just something odd. I had nothing to do one day, so this may be off because I had to physically hand count every single one from two different lists. But if you look at the size of high schools that have football teams in the state of North Carolina, Albemarle is 361st out of 384 schools. So there's only 23 schools that have football team in North Carolina that's smaller than Albemarle. And South Stanley is not much bigger, and neither is North. And there's always that talk about consolidation, that you lose opportunities for kids to play sports. But when you get so small, you know, Albemarle doesn't have a girls soccer or boys golf team this year, and then at different schools don't have JV teams because they just don't have enough participants. And like I said, it's not the school board's fault. There's just a combination of factors that have caused the decline in attendance. One is North Carolina with the charter schools. They started with 34 charter schools back in '97. Then they had a cap of 100 schools, and it seemed to work pretty good when they had a cap of 100 charter schools. Now, the genie has left the bottle. There's 174 charter schools throughout the state of North Carolina, and it's growing. And then you have the cooperative, innovative high school programs, and that's your Stanley Early Colleges and all the colleges. And there are 125 of those around the state. And Stanley Early College is a very successful program. And that's even taken a drain from the other traditional high schools because you have certain kids going over there. But it's just the way it is. It's another educational opportunity. Then you have the homeschoolers in the region. There are 1,001 homeschoolers in Stanley County. I just put a comparison to show you that this is not just a Stanley County issue. This is a rural issue. And some of the stuff we're talking about tonight is true throughout North Carolina. You know, Vance County up by Henderson, they just voted in the last month that they're going to combine South Vance and I think, North Vance high schools, and the size of those schools, they both used to be around 1,300 people. Now they both have about 700 some people, so they're combining to get to a 1,300 person school. Then you have your private vouchers in North Carolina. And you look at it in 2014, there were 1,200 recipients, and now there's 5,700 recipients of vouchers to go to private schools from the state of North Carolina. So that's growing. And then here's some movements on the horizon. A lot of y'all, I know me and Councilman Bramlett talked about this. It was in the News and Observer a few weeks ago. There's a movement to get places like, I think it's Matthews and Mint Hill, are trying to get it to where they can the schools can have their own charter schools and run it. And if you remember back when they talked about the consolidation in Stanley County, that Oakboro City Council or Oakville Town Council was looking at turning that into a charter school, but the laws didn't allow that, if y'all remember that. So, and that's the movement on the horizon. And then also there's a movement by people to try to have the money to follow the child to homeschools. Like, in other words, you know, so they could help pay for their books and stuff like that, because part of it is, hey, we're saving you money by not sending your kids to the public school, so give us money for books and stuff. Now, Alaska does that. I talked to someone from Alaska. It follows the money in Alaska. But Alaska is a whole different animal. Can you imagine busing kids to every school in Alaska? So I'm sure there's a lot of just rural, they have to deal with that completely different because of the way it's set up. Okay. And then another thing you got to look at, like I said, it's not no one's really fault. It's just the way the trends in education are going. And you look at how new schools in our region impact the Stanley County school system count. Over in our Montgomery County, 3 things are happening. One is Tilbury Charter Academy is opening in the fall, and they're going to start with K2s, and they're going to add a school every year to be a K5. And then, you all know Troy, they're opening one high school in Montgomery County. They're closing East and West and combining it in one, and that's going to start that in I think they're going to finish that in 2020 or 21 or something. Then you have Montgomery County Early College. That stuff just started, and you're probably thinking, okay, what does that have to do with Stanley County? Well, first of all, we take kids from other counties. We've had kids over the years from Montgomery County come into Stanley County. So you have to ask yourself, and they pay an extra fee. So you have to ask yourself, by having this new high school there, are those kids going to go to the Montgomery County school rather than Stanley County school? Then you got to look at Anson County, because we have a lot of Anson County kids that go to school at South Stanley. So those kids now maybe go to the new school in Montgomery County rather than ours. And also, will the kids from Stanley County go there? And also, that has how will that affect Greystone? Well, kids from Montgomery County no longer go to Greystone, and if they don't choose not to go to Greystone, that leaves more openings for kids from Stanley County to get it into Greystone, where they have a waiting list. So like I said, this is a pretty complex issue. It's not just a simple thing. Okay, facilities. Pinnacle Architect, back in 2015, they did a study, and it's going to bring our schools, what our current schools need is about $22 million worth of repairs, okay? And this is where my frustration has been with Stanley County schools. If you want to have your schools, I've always said, you need money to pay for them. And this is part of my presentation, is showing people the needs. So if we come to have the money, you show where we're going to need it. This is another thing about my frustration, is that when they fix something, they just put a Band-Aid on it. Now, Norwood, y'all familiar with Norwood Elementary School, and I've talked about this one for years. They had that open classroom where it was not really safe, and it was just older, and it was not good for the education process because they didn't have walls in their classroom. Then they have the main building that occasionally smells like sewer. And then they have the gymatorium that smells like mold. And I'm just personal observation, and other people have verified it. So what they did, and this is a school they were considering closing, so they put $1 million into it to take care of that middle problem, the open classroom. Okay, that's good and great. So what did that leave? You had 1/3 of the school in good shape and 2/3 in bad shape. And if you look at that report, it says the fact in that Pinnacle report about the elementary schools that we have very old facilities. Baden, Locust, Norwood, and Oakboro exist, and they're 50 to 100 years old and have outlived their intended use. So how much money do you put into that? And I hate to bring it up, but it's kind of gross. We were talking about it today at lunch. Guess who's coming tomorrow? I was talking to Dr. James. Guess who's coming tomorrow to Norwood Elementary School to look at that sewage smell problem? Is Pinnacle Architecture is finally coming in because they can't figure out what's wrong with the sewage smell at the main building in Norwood. And that's just purely disgusting. That's one thing I'm tired about, man. I'm tired of thinking of kids and teachers being in these buildings all day when they're like that. And then, the middle schools are good because they're all pretty new, and then you have the high schools, and they're starting to outlive their use. Okay, and this is a tale of two pictures here. If you look at the two pictures, the picture on the left is from Locust Elementary School, and that's another issue. When I did the school tours with the county commissioners, they redid Locust, but they didn't do the whole school. So now they have issues still in the back school. So they have that brand new school in the front, then they have issues in the back with the other school. But look at that gymnasium that the kids at Locust Elementary School play in. Okay, and at the right, that's the gymnasium or gymatorium that the kids at Norwood Elementary School play in. If you look at the wall in the back, see how the paint's chipped? You look at Locust, you see the nice painted line on the varnished floor there? And look at the duct tape they're using on the stained carpet for the basketball lines at Norwood Elementary School. And then the big thing is I really get a kick out of, look above Russ Sharple's head right there, you see the basketball hoop up against the wall. And can you imagine doing layup practice in that one? So, how can we as citizens allow this to continue? And okay, let me go to something else. And a lot of it, we talked about demographics. Toys R Us is going out of business. Why did Toys R Us are going out of business? Because Americans aren't having as many babies as we used to have. And we're kicking all the illegal immigrants out of here. Even with the legal immigration, we're cutting that in half. We're trying to cut that in half. So basically, you have less people coming through the system. And it's just a reality. And I remember the demographer, McKibben, I think he was here. And he made an off comment one day, and he talked about growth coming in. He says, a lot of people come in from Charlotte and live in Locust, but then he said a lot of people are moving back because it's just one of those places to have people come in. Then he just made an offhand comment about the immigration with Mexico. He says, a lot of people say that 200,000 people come in a month, but 200,000 people go back to Mexico in a month, so it's really not a net growth. Anyway, and the projected population, and by the way, I looked at the agenda for the county commissioners tonight, and they're talking about this issue about the senior center, and this topic is up there again because they're talking about maybe looking at making satellite offices for the senior center. Because if you look at the growth, the good news is Stanley County is going to grow, and we're going to grow from 60,000 to 73,000 people, they say, in the next 20 years. But if you look at the number, it's an aging population, so you have to gear toward that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You could build, I grew up in Florida. Economies are built on aging populations. And then if you look at the number for the 0 to 17, it looks like we're going to have a growth of 950 children from age of 0 to 17 over the next 20 years total. And if you look at that, you have to take out the kids 0 to 5 because they're even in school yet, so that leaves about 636 kids. So if you be really positive and think all those 600 and whatever the number is, 686 kids are going to go to Stanley County schools, that means you're going to grow by 34 students a year. We had how many empty seats to have to get with them there? And then how do you pay for it? That's the big thing. How do you pay for it? And y'all remember the sales tax. And a lot of these all interweave with each other. 3 times in the past 4 years we've tried to pass a 1/4 cent sales tax with some of the money going toward education. And the first one was a big loss because in 2015 we tried to raise money for the for public safety and education for the new radio towers, and that didn't pass. So guess what that meant? That meant the money we were going to use for the radio towers from the sales tax we weren't getting. So we ended up purchasing the radio systems out of money from our general budget. So that's what we're paying for, and that's less money for everything else. Then other options for funding by the Stanley County Commissioners. They could raise property taxes, which they're not really easy to do, or they can change the sales tax distribution formula. I know. I bring that up because it is a reality, and that's sitting on the table. It was brought up last year, and last year they attempted to change the formula from per capita formula to ad valorem formula, and they were going to get $1.7 million from the municipalities, and that would have given them a lot of money to do with the schools and everything else. But I always question why they had that second meeting, because anybody looking at this spreadsheet right here, seeing that you guys would lose $679,000, Baden $327,000. Anyone looking at that sheet could figure out in 15 seconds that would be devastating to the municipalities in Stanley County. And I bring that up again because if you really listen to what they were talking about, and Commissioner McSwain and Commissioner Burleson and Commissioner Morgan, I know those three for sure, they were all open to the idea of letting y'all keep this like $679,000, but any future growth of taking that money. So I just, and let me see one more thing. So I tried to rip through this pretty quick. Oh, and one thing was interesting in the comments today when I was listening to Dr. James, and he's doing the best he can and stuff, but he made the comment that we have too many teachers in our system compared to how many students we have. But yet, where's the discussion about too many buildings for the amount of kids? And they're thinking about going to, another comment was they came out and they're going to try to go to, over the summertime, they're going to go to a 4-day work week and closing the buildings on that 5th day, because that way it'll save like $275,000. And he actually said yeah, because closing the buildings will save money. I said, man, you don't want to use that approach and stuff. But anyway, that's just some things. And I leave this with y'all and hopefully get out of it. No, that is a very complex issue. And I'm really getting tired of the whole discussion about trying to help the kids. And I've always said this, if we want to keep the schools open, you have to give the kids in those schools a proper curriculum. Plus, you have to have the kids in buildings that are not being torn down. They don't have to be Taj Mahals, but they can't be junk building either. Our teachers deserve more, and so do our students. But anyway, I know it's going to be a long night. I just wanted to talk as fast as I could to get as much information in. I do appreciate y'all letting me. Have you got any questions?
One thing you left out is the concept that keeps being preached in the county of neighborhood schools. And I've wondered about this from the very beginning. If we had, to me, the concept of neighborhood schools, you send a kid to the school they live closest to. And that's the whole concept. But here we are in Albemarle with 396 students. Within 5 miles of where we sit, there are 22,000 people. And there are only 396 students that live closest to Albemarle High School.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Oh, I know, and I thought about that concept of community schools. I lived right off of Man Road, going down. I lived about a mile from North Albemarle, but we were in the New London School District. I know my friend Connie's going to kill me, but she lives where she lives. It's a long way to get to Baden. I mean, she doesn't live in Baden, but her kids go to Baden, and she lives up off of 52. And you can look at example after example. The kids at Crystal Village or the kids at the college used to go to West Stanley, and there's a lot of issues there. And I can tell you one thing I'm going to give a good shout out to Albemarle on. There's always a perception that they want to send their kids there because of the crime and stuff. When I was a county commissioner, I got, Andy Lucas would send out some statistics every once in a while, and the crimes in the high school, and most of the crimes were drugs and alcohol related, And I can't remember if number 1 or number 2 was West Stanley or North Stanley, but that was pretty close by far. And Albemarle and South Stanley were 3rd and 4th on the lowest. And there's a pretty big difference between, and that was the couple of years that I saw the statistics there. There was a big difference there. And one of the reasons when you look at drugs and alcohol, and this is just my theory, is that, you know, when you come from in those areas, the more rural areas, the kids have cars, the kids have more money, they have more freedom, so they're going to have more access to get around and do that stuff. But you're right, with the neighborhood schools, is, you know, they talk the thing, but it's not really neighborhood school. And I always wonder if you look at I'd love to see the actual radius, like even in Oakboro or Norwood or Stanfield, to see how many kids live within 2 or 3 miles of that school and how many kids live in the country and are just bused to the school of their thing. So anyway.
Well, to me, the most telling factor in all that, when you look at any of the statistics, are we have like 2,100 high school kids. So if you had 2 high schools, you would have 2 high schools the size of what West Stanley used to be.
Yes.
Because West was a little over 1,000 students. So that makes, we have enough kids for 2 small high schools. That's it.
Yeah, because that's not even at 1,000 is not a big high school.
No, it's not.
Because
even at 1,000 kids, you can't offer them what they need. You can't provide them with the classes, AP classes, and all the, you know, the upper level and vocational. I mean, none of that. You can't offer any of that with 400 kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough because you're trying to do everything you can. And that's one reason where Greystone and Stanley Early College have success, is because they're targeting kids at they're all pretty close to the same level, so you can target classes for them. If I live here, one more thing I forgot. This is another thing with construction. Sorry about that. I'll eventually have it on my slide. This is from 2016 in the Stanley News and Press. And one reason we're crunched with the numbers on our facilities is because what they've done at the state legislature up in North Carolina. And this is the lottery money. The lottery money was a bigger percentage was supposed to go toward facilities. And that first year, it started in 2007, $1,119,000 came to Stanley County Schools to pay for our facilities. And now, as county commissioners, we always talked about this because when I think they passed the bond and they did something else, some construction stuff, they used it to use this money to pay it off, to make the payments. And then that same year, they paid $470,000 for teachers. So year one, $1,119,000 for construction. 2007, $474,000 went to teacher salaries. Okay, so we were paying our debt off with that money. Then the Republicans, and this is just the I'm not getting political, but the Republicans took charge in 2010. Okay, that's when they got elected, and they took over in Raleigh. And in 2010, we got $1,100,000 for school construction. But the first year the Republicans took over, it dropped to $640,000 that we got for school construction. And that same year, the money that went from teachers went from $624,000 to $1,300,000. So that was a huge reverse. And then, the last year we saw this, that they had the report on, it was $586,000 for constructions and $1,400,000 towards teachers. So they kind of have reversed everything. And when I would go to the county commissioner meetings at the state, and they asked a list of things for our lobbyists to try to lobby Raleigh for, this was always the first or second item, was trying to get the North Carolina legislature to reverse the formula to help out with facilities because it would really help rural counties. So I know y'all got a lot to talk about. And anything else?
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you for your up-to-date information last night during the storm.
Our roving report.
Number 4, Miss Cindy Talbert to request a peddler's license. You'll come forward, please. Tell us what you want to do, Mr. Talbert.
Well, I have purchased a concessions trailer to to sell carnival foods, snow cones, things that don't require me to have a commissary. One, I'm going to do some church things. I'm a director of King's Kids, so they'll benefit from all that. I'm going to partner with Friends of Stanley County Animals and set up at their sites and give them a portion of the money. And then other times would be like at events. One such thing is the Albemarle Marketplace. They're having an event next Saturday. They have food trucks come in. It's a Saturday job.
So nothing that has to be prepared and the health department has to inspect, is that?
No. I've been in contact with the health department,
Okay.
Jenny Smith, and I have the list from them. I have the approval from the Department of Agriculture with the prepackaged and the approved food list from them. She said I don't need anything else from them. Jenny says I don't need anything from the health department. I'm good to go except for this.
Move approval.
And I second that.
Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Number 5, Ms. Ellen Lambert to discuss the opioid crisis.
Good evening.
It's nice to see you. I have begun a partnership with Law Enforcement Action Partnership, and what we do is we work with communities in any way to bridge the gap in between the police and the citizens. And after sitting down with our chief, I asked him what I could do to help, and he said that law enforcement seemed to have a lot of strain with addicts, and that they were faced with decisions where they had, literally someone's life. They could, help them, or their choice determines, what happens with their life, if they go to jail or if they get treatment. And then I had a friend in 2015 who overdosed. And I was thinking, had he had the opportunity to self-surrender to a law enforcement officer, not being in the commission of a crime, maybe his life would have been saved. And so I have put a resolution before you, and I hope that you all have read it, to support and encourage legislation for the Narcotic Addict Self-Surrender Act. And what this is going to do is allow police to take the narcotics, and because the way it's set up now, if a policeman takes someone narcotics and takes them to rehab, the police officer now has possession of an illegal substance. So this needs to be enacted so that the law enforcement or the police officer is protected, and they can take them to rehab. The substance can be destroyed. And also, there's things in here that would prevent human trafficking. I've heard horror stories where women were taken to Durham, North Carolina, and they were sold into sex slavery. In some of these homes, they take people's telephones and they don't give them access to 911, things that they should have access to. And I was hoping that you all would help me. And no, these people aren't our responsibility, but it's our responsibility to take care of our citizens. And this has become a public health issue.
I do agree that this is definitely something we need to address, but I got a couple of questions. Number one, an addicted citizen who is found of sound mind, what's being oriented times 3?
They know day, time, and place. That is a health terminology, and so that means that they're cognitive. That means that they're aware, and that is by law aware.
Okay. And have you got a sponsor? Have you got a legislative sponsor yet?
No, I do not. However, Chief Bowen has asked, I think it's Tom McInnes, to see over this, and then after the primary elections then I will go and try to find a senator or congressman after we know who's going to be up for vote.
I'm not going to say council will not adopt a resolution, but I would expect that they would rather see the final language after you get a sponsor before they do adopt a resolution. and also see it presented to the League of Municipalities and see what their comments are.
Okay.
And I think that comes after you get a sponsor and some bill gets introduced.
Okay.
Then they will have meetings and discuss that, whether the municipalities will support it or not.
Okay.
And obviously, I think if you get a good bill, most of it will be supported.
Okay.
But there are some language in here that I think needs to be worked on to make sure we're not infringing on anybody's rights and that type of thing.
Exactly.
Council have any question?
That was just my take on it. This is a real hot button now in Raleigh. I know there's a lot of bills being introduced, or at least being talked about. I would think our legislators would be involved. I mean, I would think this would be something that should originate with them, like the mayor said. Something that they would draw up along these lines. I would certainly want to look at and consider.
Okay.
But
Well,
I don't think this kind of thing needs to originate.
Senator McGinnis was one of the lead sponsors last year in the bills that they did get through on opioid, and I understand they are looking to do something again this year to strengthen it. So I think he's the one you should talk to.
Okay, and I do appreciate the advice, but the reason why I brought it before City Council is because we are losing young people at an alarming rate, and I would like to keep it in the back of your minds that these people are humans. They have a disease. Please treat them as such.
And I agree. We're not going to arrest our way out of this crime.
Okay.
It's going to take treatment, and we agree with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
He's back. If you want
Mr. Lester, do you have something to bring for council before we proceed on?
I feel like people have gone out to mediation in a courtroom. I do.
Mayor, member of the council, we have prepared a 90-day time frame, and I'll let Mr. Townsend explain his plans for that 30, 60, and 90-day compliance.
Okay.
Okay, in the first 30, we plan to cut all overgrown trees and shrubbery, to remove all trash and debris, and to secure all windows and exterior access points. In the 30 to 60, we plan to pressure wash exterior, paint and repair front porch area, which is one of the bad areas, and paint and repair the back porch area, which is pretty much the areas that really need the attention. And then 60 to 90, replace the windows and doors and repair the roof.
Mr. Lester, will that address the interior, or are we just talking exterior only at this time?
These are mostly cosmetic for drive-by appearance. It does not address the major violations, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It doesn't address any of those issues.
How are we going to address those, Mr. Townsend?
That will be second phase. I'll speak with Mr. Worry, but we plan to do it all. But this is just the 90-day plan.
How long time frame do you think it would take to do it all? I don't think council is going to just sit here and take something without knowing you're going to do the inside in some kind of a...
And I respect that. Roughly 6 months, maybe? And
Total.
That's depending...
6 months total?
Total. I'm hoping, and that's, speaking with Bobby, making sure, financially we can do the things. A lot of this work I'll be doing myself, so 6 months, I think we should be able to complete it.
Mr. Dry?
Why would you spend 90 days on our appeal, candy, if you will, when the problem is inside? People are not going to live on the outside of the house. They're going to live on the inside. Why would you not look at doing some things internally first and then dressing it up last? Take a bath first and then get dressed.
I'll do it either way you like to do it. Personally, I thought...
That's what I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not a fan of what you're saying. I'm sorry.
And my reason for this approach is that we feel that the city is basically looking at it from curb appeal. Most of the properties, from my knowledge, that you guys have addressed them about have been about curb appeal. So that was just the start.
No,
we can start on the inside.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Okay. You look at the pictures that we had of the interiors and how decrepit they were. If we're going to do a house, let's do it the right way. Let's build a foundation and go up with it. Let's don't put paint on it and make it look pretty, and then somewhere down the road it's going to take $10,000 to fix it up, and then come back in and say, we spent all this money and we're sort of out now. Well, let's go in and I want to hear you address the problem and how you're going to do it. Then I can support it.
Okay. Again, this was brought to my attention today. I didn't know. I think Bobby didn't get the letters or whatever. He called me last night to ask me to be here for his representation. I could get back with him. I don't have a problem with starting on the inside. We don't have a problem with starting on the inside. Right. It's just that I feel that he felt that one of the things you guys were mostly concerned about was curb appeal. But we'll do that and go into the inside.
And I went to school with Bobby, so if he has a question, tell him to give me a call. I'll be happy to talk to him.
Benton Dry Yard, most certainly.
Mr. Luster, what inside needs to be done that is going to have to be done to fix it up?
A bunch of work that needs to be completed. Mechanical system's going to have to be brought up completely. Heating and air conditioning. The electrical has got to be brought up to code. Plumbing, all of the major issues need to be brought up to code.
I've got the page here on page 6 of 12 of his report of 608. It's got 13 things on there.
Mr. Townsend, are you a contractor?
No, but I do side work.
I understand side work, but do you have the resources to do the heating, the air, the electrical, the plumbing, and all that?
No, sir.
Do you have the resources to hire that done?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I think like Mr. Dry said, yes, we know realistically that we want them to do the house right. But I think what the general population look at from us is they try to address anything that is considered an eyesore to the community. And I think that's the approach that Mr. Rory call himself taking in this matter, is try to address the eyesore. And yes, then he told me when I talked to him on the phone that he had invested a lot of money into some of these properties, and then he got sick. And yes, things haven't moved at the level that he would like for him to move, but he don't want to lose his property by just seeing it torn down, but he want to take whatever steps necessary to try to get it to whatever standards. And I know, in my opinion, I told him it's a lot of work to be done, but if he put forth the effort, anybody that's going to try to maintain our tax base instead of us tearing properties down that's going to take away from our tax base, I'm willing to give them a try,
Let me just ask you this. Suppose we said, you said 30, 60, 90, and 3 more months, 6 months. What if we put the restriction that at any point in that time, you don't meet that guideline of what you just gave us, we're going to tear it down? Are you willing to gamble everything that you're putting into it up to that point?
Well, I'd like to work it out where if I didn't meet the lady line, that we could reconsider and do it. I wouldn't just want to be held to tearing it down because I didn't meet a deadline, because I don't think that would be fair. But it's, again, I'm here.
See where that puts us, because you could drag this thing out forever.
Well, that's not the intent. As I say, I'm just coming on board with the situation. As before, Bobby had another property that I worked with the JAME on, and he'll tell you I went about it in a timely fashion, and that's the intent here with this property and the rest of them. I'm just coming on board, and I'm going to try to help him in any way I can.
And
any
just to add
resources that I have.
And I definitely can appreciate that, but please understand where we're at too. This situation's been going on for 2 years. So although you're just coming on board, what we see is a situation that's been declining for over 2 years now, and now it's just now we're just seeing a plan now.
Okay, and I promise to fulfill that plan. I'm asking for the opportunity to fulfill my wishes here, or my commitment, and go from there.
Let's up the ante on the commitment here a little bit. Okay. We give you the time. Get some permits. Go get some permits that say that we're going to do this. I can tell you anything I want you to hear, and I'm not saying I don't believe you at all. Your intentions are good, but show us something more tangible. And I understand about eye appeal, but it goes deeper than that.
Okay.
Make a commitment to say, I'm going to pull a permit to do this and this, and it doesn't have to be magnanimous. It could be a little thing to pull.
I hear you.
Let's show something tangible that will make the house worth Mr. Roy's investment. Painting it is not going to make his investment come true. Spending $80,000, what's your estimate on that? Ballpark.
Total and repair, 55,000.
Okay.
That's probably
That's
conservative.
$55,000.
That's conservative.
And that sounds really good. But if I'm doing something, that's the contractor's price. Remember, we're going to do a lot of this work ourselves. So
You got inspections. You got a
understand.
number of things that you got to do. You start to get up there, and you start hitting $30,000. You don't have a contractor's license. They shut you down.
Okay.
Could we hold this till next meeting and let them try to come up with a more specific?
Council's going to do whatever they wish.
I'm going to see something more specific. I
I
really
move
do.
that we postpone this till the next.
And I will have Mr. Rory call you, Mr. Dry.
Give him an opportunity to come back.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to him.
I'm going to have him call you, sir.
He's a good man.
He is.
Good man.
And all he asks is the opportunity to work with him. That's all. That's why I'm here.
I'm definitely fine with moving it to next meeting.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm sitting here listening, and I see it become more prevalent here tonight when we talking to our residential owners, that we definitely got to, when we know we get in the downtown area, we got properties that got talks and stuff in our central business district, so we know we got to move forward also on the commercial code.
Amen.
You know, we're going to put pressure on our residents like this.
It's hand in
And
hand.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
hand in hand.
I ride around this city too, and I see a lot more things that probably need attention than this, but I'm not on this board.
We're trying.
Council, if you want to delay this to the next meeting, I entertain a motion.
Second.
I made the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Bramlett, second by Councilmember Drive, that we lay this to the next meeting, which will be the first meeting in May, first Monday in May, and you will have us a formal document returned through Mr. Luster and to us for we can consider.
Yes, sir.
That Mr.
Mr.
Rory
Vincent,
has.
Mr. Dry, would you like to give me that phone number now?
704. This is for everybody. You can call me. I don't care. 704-985-8009, because I don't mind telling you how I feel.
So what's that, 704?
704-985-8009.
Especially when somebody calls
And
at
if
3 o'clock tomorrow morning.
I get them. If I don't answer, leave me a voice message with a workable number, and I will return your call.
Make sure we do that.
But don't text him. Don't text him. Just call him.
Yeah, don't text.
Never get an
So I won't
answer.
get no response by
No,
text.
you won't get
I have a flip phone.
Further discussion.
Update.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Moving forward, number 6, your monthly departmental reports are in your agendas. Anyone have any question?
I told my wife would be home before.
Moving on to unfinished business. Number 7, consider a resolution 1802 naming URI Bank as the official depository.
Whoa! We need to move. We need to excuse Martha.
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Hall to excuse Councilmember Hughes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion.
Let's vote.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed.
See it on TV.
Motion carries.
Come
Now,
back.
I'll now I'll entertain a motion to consider Resolution 1802.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Aldridge, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. You want to bring her back in, Chris?
I have to take a break here.
You're going to see it on channel 21.
We used to always have to.
Under new business, consideration of special events permit dinner on Main. Connie, you going to come up and speak on this?
Do I need to? No. You don't have to.
Are you doing different? Yeah, come on up. Are you doing different organizations every year? Is that what you're doing?
My intentions was to continuously move the event toward benefiting the farming community. And the first year I did it because I was in Dancing with the Stars. And then United Way was helpful, but I'm trying to gear it toward more of the farming community and perhaps establish this relationship for future years as well.
Okay.
If you attend, could you sit inside?
Sure, we'll have a special table just for you.
I remember last year going by there, and it was hot.
It was, although we did move the time to 7 p.m., and that helped, having it a little bit later in the
I
evening.
can't do.
And the time this year is going to be,
7 p.m. as well.
and the date.
June 9th, Saturday, June 9th.
June
It's
9th.
graduation weekend, as it's always been, and everyone will
We'll
comment
see.
on
Okay,
that.
Let's get it all out so the public hears. Where is this going to be? You got a time to advertise. Advertise.
It will be on the corner of First and Main, just outside of Tiffany's, right in the intersection. And we have a table set up for 120 people, and it will be a lovely evening, as it has been in the past several years. And I believe last year they raised about $6,000 for the United Way.
And the tickets cost?
$60.
And they buy them where?
We're working on that.
And you're reserving tickets for people that have already called?
Well, people, yes. I've been messaged quite a bit, and I know that we do limit the event to 120 people. And in the past, we've had people make reservations, but this year I believe I'm going to just, as soon as I have the tickets printed up, we'll have them available at either of my locations or the Friends of Egg Civic Center.
If you I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Question, on our information here, it says it's contingent upon application of securing an ABC permit. Now, Tiffany's has the ABC permit. Is that?
Okay, so what happens is I had to fill out an application through Parks and Rec, which that already has been done. Their approval is contingent on the DOT's approval, which is contingent on this day and approval by you all, and Chief Bowen writing the letter as well. So everyone's essentially waiting on everyone, and as soon as it is approved this evening, we can move forward. That's why I haven't sold the tickets yet.
I move approval and move approval of the waiver request, the fee waiver request.
Oh, okay, great.
Motion by Councilmember Hall,
Second.
second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And what's the ticket price?
$60 per ticket.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9, consideration of special event permit for the Beach Blast 5K. Peter's back here if you have any questions.
Real quick, I have questions. Just want to let you know we've done this for a lot of years. The city and this thing's been wonderful. And I got one little stat for you guys, if that's okay, about how the impact running has on Stanley County community. And we have that Fellowship of the Idiot Run. The longer distance runs, people come in from further away. And in the last 3 years of the people who registered for the Fellowship of the Idiot Runs, some didn't show up because of weather certain years, but of the 712 people that participated in this Fellowship of the Idiot Run over the last 3 years, and it starts at 5:30 in the morning, only 55 were from Stanley County. So that meant that almost 600 and someone came from all around North and South Carolina, and a lot of them had to stay in hotels and ate and all that stuff because starting at 5:30. And the reason we don't have many people from Stanley County anymore participating because everyone's pretty much an idiot here by now, and they don't, you do it one time and you just kidding. Most of the runners have done it before, so
I was going to say that means there's not a lot of idiots in Stanley County, but
that's right. That's right. I'm just kidding. That's just the runners, not the people. So if y'all got any question on the Beach Blast? It's our 14th year and should be another good one.
I move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Bramlett, second by Councilmember Whitley. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Your Honor, I just want to make one comment. This is the same day that we're having the downtown event.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so I just want to applaud everybody involved. It seems like in years past we have the running event one weekend, then we have the downtown thing the other weekend. I hope, and I really want to encourage everybody to come out and support this because I think there's going to be something for everybody. And so hopefully this will be moving forward, collaboration between the different,
And also, we got a third group involved with the WAG Fest. The WAG Fest is going to be that day also, and that'll be over at the YMCA Park. And that'll kind of help bridge a gap between the run in the morning
And the
and I think
afternoon.
the afternoon they're going to start the thing. So
Good.
the later morning they're going to do like 10 o'clock, I think it is, the WAG Fest. So there's a lot for people to do in Stanley County. And I tell you what, if I don't give a shout out to Tiffany's on Main down there, she had that comedy show there
Last week.
Friday, and she's doing it for the next 12 weeks, and she had comedians from the Comedy Zone out of Charlotte. They were there. Then the part of the Comedy Zone of L.A. They franchised it, and she's hosting it every 2 weeks for the next 12 weeks. And those folks were funny. I couldn't tell you any of the jokes here because you can't use that.
There's something going on the entire day, so I encourage people to come out for the
that's
beach
gonna
blast
make a
and
huge
everything's going on
impact.
with it. Number 10, consider request from Piedmont Natural Gas for a main extension. This is at PD and Maine, if you saw that in your agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hall.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Proclamation, National Day of Prayer. This is the same thing we've done for the last several years. It's on May 3rd this year.
Move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Hall to approve.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 12, consider approval of the audit contract for the fiscal year 17-18. This is, you approved this for, I think, 3 years. Is Ms. Conroy back there? 3 years. This is giving you the price and all for this upcoming year.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Dry.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 13, consider Resolution 1803, authorizing the IDF application. This is for the money we will receive for the road through the State Department of Commerce. We have done a pre-application, and now they need the full application, but they have already approved that. And Mr. Donovan is turning in this application with council's approval.
Move Resolution 1803.
Motion by Councilmember Hall.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Whitley. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 14, consider utility preliminary engineering agreement with NCDOT for design activities associated with the relocation of the water and sewer lines for the NC 2427 widening project.
So moved.
I just
Yes, ma'am.
have a question on the fee schedule, and I'm sure this is just, I'm just trying to understand this. What is an overhead rate? What does that mean? I see the direct labor.
Good for you, Martha.
But I don't understand what an overhead rate is. What does that mean?
Basically, that is basically all of their overhead and profit. In other words, what it costs to run it's their payroll cost. It's the overhead rate that's applied to their payroll cost.
Okay.
And it's basically overhead profit running the office, all of their overhead expenses, basically.
And if you'll note in there, this is under the new agreement that the state law passed a few years ago, where the state will pay 75%, city will pay 25%, and our cost will be about $69,000.
69,391.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I thought there was.
Motion by Councilmember Dry.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Aldridge. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 15, consider agreement with Chambers Engineering for engineering and design services for the relocation of water and sewer lines for the NC 2427 widening project.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Bramlett.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Aldridge. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 16, consider a modification to the Public Utility Department customer service policy for bulk water sales. You'll see in there that we're eliminating getting bulk water sales at the 52 treatment plant, and then we'll get it all at the city garage.
Move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Hughes, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 17, consider approval of the Department of Public Housing fiscal year 2018 agency plan annual update. Mr. Baldwin.
I particularly like one of them. All of them, but one of them particularly.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Ferris. What you have before you for consideration of approval is our 2018 annual update of our 5-year agency plan for years 2015 through 2019. the City of Albemarle Department of Public Housing, we held our public hearing discussing the policy updates and additions to our policies on April 10th, 2018 at 4 p.m. at the City of Albemarle Department of Public Housing Community Room. During that time, we did discuss some recommendations that were given to us through the Department of HUD. And one of the main things that we have to do this year is add a smoke-free policy to our public housing units. You'll find in your agenda that I do have highlighted some of the important pieces of that policy, and I also have the actual policy in your packet as well. But this is a HUD-mandated policy to be effective July 1st, 2018. What this policy will do, it will bar the use of prohibited tobacco products from indoors and within 25 feet of all buildings and playgrounds. Prohibited products will include any lit cigars, cigarettes, pipes, water pipes, or hookahs, electronic nicotine delivery systems, e-cigarettes, and other lit products and devices containing tobacco, marijuana, or any other legal or illegal substance that burns. Also within this policy, as far as enforcing the policy, we're looking at 3 violations to be considered a serious violation of your lease, which will be a cause for eviction. This policy will apply to all our residents, their families, any of their visitors or guests, as well as public housing department staff, any of our contractor service personnel also. So with that policy, we do look to have, as far as enforcing, we had some discussion within our public hearing of how do we plan to enforce this policy. What we're hoping to happen is that resident compliance will be our #1 enforcement, but we do have situations where our residents don't comply. What we're looking at as far as when we go in to do work orders or we get complaints from neighbors that's going on, we'll do investigations then. And if we do find that those complaints or whatnot are substantiated, then we will go through our violation policies as far as the 3-strike policy. And discussing with other housing agencies that have already implemented the policy, this policy isn't one of their main reasons for evictions. I think out of the statistics that I've seen, maybe 1% or so of the people have been evicted. And so it's not something major. I think it's been as a growing trend that smoking is bad for the health of everyone, and a lot of places are on board with moving away from smoking. Also, within the policy, there are some what we like to call disclaimers. We do know that smoking has been allowed in public housing for a while, so we do understand that in some of our units there will be some lingering evidence of where smoking was once allowed. Those situations, we just want to let the people know that are signing off on these policies that because we do have a policy, that doesn't mean that smoking will not happen. So we wanted to put some disclaimers in there to legally keep ourselves out of being held liable to making sure that the place is actually smoke-free, because we do know that some people may violate this policy. So we had to add that in there. During the public hearing, like I said, when we did have these discussions about the policy, there wasn't actually any objection to doing it. Everybody that was at the meeting at the time didn't have any comments against. We also have a partnership with North Carolina Tobacco Prevention and the American Lung Association to offer cessation classes for any residents who want to take this as an opportunity to quit smoking. There are a lot of free resources that are out there through those two programs. We're actually going to have one of our employees to attend a training where they'll become an actual help quit smoking facilitator. So they'll be able to do some counseling with any residents or anything like that who would like to quit. So that'll be another added benefit to the department in that aspect.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that a training that's going to be at the health department in Mecklenburg County at the end of May?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
And I'm gonna send my staff member Bill Baldwin to do that. And he's identified one resident that he's going to take with him as well to take advantage of the training. So we'll have a staff and a resident to be on board with being a facilitator of that program. The only other update that we needed to make to our conventional public housing side was we needed to change our flat rents. I think a couple of years ago, I came to you with the policy that HUD made as far as flat rents needing to be 80% of Stanley County fair market rents. And whenever fair market rents go up, we have to raise our flat rents. And our flat rents are pretty much the ceiling rents, the most anyone would have to pay to live there based on the income that they make. With the new proposed flat rents for a one-bedroom, we're looking at $426, two-bedroom $546, a three-bedroom $745, a four-bedroom $918, a five-bedroom $1,056. Stanley County fair market rents for a one-bedroom currently is $533, a two-bedroom $683, three-bedroom $931, and a four-bedroom $1,148, and a five-bedroom $1,320. So we had to increase our flat rents to stay in compliance with those HUD guidelines that are currently established. There was no comments against us having to do that. Even though it is a HUD mandated policy, we'd have to do it anyway.
Does that include the utility allowance or not?
That does include your utilities, yes.
But your market rate for the Stanley County did not, correct?
It does.
It does?
The fair market rents the fair market rent does include what utilities plus rent should cost for a unit of that size. Yes, sir.
Where do you get those figures from?
It's a formula that HUD puts together. They do some research and get the information from, I think, different renter organizations, and they put together an elaborate formula that that comes up with these numbers.
Thank you.
But it's a federal numbers that are put out for our county our size. And those were the updates that we had for the public housing policies and procedures.
Further questions, Council?
I do have one question. Do you by chance know, Mr. Baldwin, right now how many of the units are being smoked in? Do you have any way of knowing that?
I don't have an actual number, but we've been doing some coaching and getting residents prepared for this for some time now. And from some of the residents that we have talked to that we do know that smoke, they have been making preparations to actually stop smoking in their units. So we have seen some progress in the number of units that are smoked in, but I do see that we may have some little issues to begin with that we may have to deal with, but we're prepared for that.
And the second part of that is, will they have to sign you may have said that and I missed it, when the policy goes into effect, will they have to sign like a disclaimer or disclosure, understanding they realize the new enforcement?
Yes, sir. Right now, once you guys have approved this plan to go through, every resident will have to sign a addendum to the lease that they currently have that will be this specific policy, and they'll have a copy that they'll take with them and one that'll go in their file that they've signed.
Just a crazy question. Last week when you had the public hearing, how many folks did you have there?
We had about 35 people. It was a nice crowd than normal. Yeah.
That's a very large crowd for your public hearing.
It was.
Okay, very good.
We kind of changed the format. We went to instead of doing it on a different day than when we have our residents council meeting.
Right.
We had it on the same day that would be a scheduled resident council meeting, and the attendance was very good.
Very
for
good.
that.
And that was inclusive of Elizabeth Heights as well, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Further questions, council? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dry, second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
I needed to do some updates to my housing choice voucher program as well. Okay. All right. HUD has mandated that we need to add a policy for terminations due to insufficient funding. Right now, I think you guys can recall the discussion that funding been an issue for our Section 8 program, and within that, we did some looking at our policies and funding that we're receiving, and HUD has told us that we need to have in our policies and procedures a policy for terminations due to insufficient funding from HUD themselves. And what this policy does, it just outlines that if HUD do determine that we need to terminate some of our vouchers or suspend some of our vouchers, that we need to have in our policies outline how we would go about doing that. And what this policy simply says is that we would give a 30-day notice to any affected family, and the steps that we would take to do that, we would first determine how many that we would need to terminate. Then that number of voucher holders, we would be notified, starting with the most recent issued vouchers first, and elderly or disabled head of household families will not be included. So we would skip over those and go to the next person on the list. And
So
again,
is that last in, early, first out? Is that what I just heard?
yes, ma'am. Yes,
Last
ma'am.
in, okay.
Yeah, and we do want to note that those suspended families will be placed at the top of the waiting list, so that when appropriate funding is determined to be sufficient, they would be the first ones to be reinstated to participate in the program. Those families that were terminated at that point.
And this is, should we, if I'm understanding correctly, if HUD should say to us that we have fewer Section 8 vouchers than we do now, is that right?
If HUD was to say we do not have enough funds to fund your program,
gotcha.
So then we would have to terminate.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Council have any further questions?
I just, 30 days, that's sure not a lot of time for a family to, you'd think they would have a little bit of a knowledge to say, hey, listen, we're going to give you a 3-month notice that we know in 3 months we're going to have to do something. 30 days.
That's tough, I agree. Is that a recommendation of HUD, or is that just...
That's typical termination policies are within the scope of the program. Our guy who does, Bart Lewis, who does our policy updates for us, he researched what other agencies are doing, and this is pretty much the norm for all agencies.
Jeez.
Continue on, whatever you have.
All right. Lastly, I just have on there for to also help with funding issues that during interim changes that families are requested to report any increase income changes within 10 days of those changes. We didn't have any wording in our policy as far as when you're supposed to report changes, and HUD has recommended that we put that information, requesting that information to be given to us within 10 days of that change. And so that will be added to wording in our policies as well. And we also just went over the upcoming things that we're looking to do with our capital fund 5-year plan. And we just did an overview where we're going to be upgrading our housing software system. We're still going to be looking at the construction and renovation of our Family Life Center. We will need to replace some other computers in our office, do some landscaping renovations, and also within the units to replace the interior and exterior doors. We opened it up for comment. Like I said, there were no comments against any of the proposed changes that we had. We did have some positive comments about the smoke-free policy, and with that, we closed the public hearing, and now I ask that if council doesn't have any further questions, to consider approving this policy to be submitted to HUD for approval.
Council, unless you have questions, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the HCV program and the 5-year update. We've already approved the other. Councilmember Bramlett, made the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Baldwin, that approves everything you needed, correct?
Yes, sir. Just I'll have some resolutions for you to sign, and Michael will get those to you. Thank you.
Number 18, consider adoption of the budget ordinance 1820.
So moved.
Second.
All miscellaneous things.
All miscellaneous, yes. Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 19, consider adoption of ordinance 1821 for the water treatment plant rehab project. And this is basically moving things into different line items. It's not an increase or a decrease. It's just reappropriation into different line items.
Approval.
Motion by Councilmember Townsend.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 20, discussion of the speed limit on North First Street near YMCA Park. This has been before council a couple times in the last few years. I think we received a request last time just a couple years ago, and we had another one 3 or 4 years ago. Last time we discussed it, we talked about why 2nd Street was a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. If you remember, 2nd Street used to have a lot of students crossing it from what was then the middle school. The middle school is not there any longer. And when the stoplight came down last time, we discussed whether to raise the speed limit back to 35 mile an hour on 2nd Street and leave the stoplight, and put the stoplight back up, or leave it at 25 and not put the stoplight back up. So we chose to leave that one at 25 and not put the stoplight back up. We did not have the problem anymore with children crossing at Franklin and 2nd, so that has addressed that issue. Now we're talking about the First Street side, and at the other 2 times, council decided not to proceed. One time we did send it to DOT. DOT did nothing with it. Second time, council chose not to proceed with anything on First Street, lowering the speed limit the last time. There is a stoplight at Franklin and First Street. Comments?
I brought it up, and the reason, and when I called Michael and said, tell me, I know we've talked about this before, but what was our final answer? And he, like me, remembered it coming before council, but could not remember what had been done to either of them. It was brought to my attention, no, not by someone that works from the YMCA, but I was actually at the YMCA park and saw an abundance of little people. And this is between like 5 and 8 o'clock at night, 5 and 7 o'clock at night, that are out playing soccer in the fall and softball or baseball or coach pitch or whatever in the spring. And there's just, when you stop to think about it, this one particular person said to me, you know, we've got all these little kids out here parents parking on the street both sides, and is there a reason why the speed limit is 35 here when we know it's directly on the other side 25? And I said to that person, First Street is a DOT street, but I don't mind bringing it up to council, knowing that DOT normally will do as is requested of them when it comes to speed limits. For instance, when they did all of Locust to one speed throughout the entire town, I was actually at a Locust City Council meeting the night they decided to change that speed limit, to take that as a request to DOT. We all know, and I hate to look at the chief out there, but I will, we all know that in past times we've put the clock up there, and people, will, if it's 35, they'll do 40, 42. If it's 25, they'll do 34 going through there. I think if nothing else, we've got to look at the safety of our children. One thing I did not do today that I meant to do, and Michael, you may know, Chief, you may know, where is it going down into town, headed south on First Street? Where is it that it goes to 25 downtown?
Goes to 20.
Goes to 20.
Goes to
the corner of North Street.
At the corner of North at the church, until you get to South Street.
Correct.
And from North to South Street.
Actually, I think on
goes all
First
the way
Street
down
it goes all the way down to Old Charlotte.
Okay, so it goes to 20, and does it go to 20 on First Street and Second Street at North?
Mm-hmm. The entire uptown.
The entire uptown, but on Second Street then, from about the middle of the YMCA park in front of the Hartsville Funeral Home, that's where it goes to 25. Then to get to North Street, and that's when it goes to 20. I would say that we just need to be congruent there. That we are leading into downtown, if you will. If nothing else, it makes people much more aware of what is going on. And yes, there is a stoplight there. I don't think that even plays into the picture right now with just safety of those kinds of things. I did ask Michael if he would check, and Michael, I don't mean to throw you under the bus because I know we've been gone here. I have not checked with George. Did you check with George? Because this did not come from YMCA people.
No, I haven't checked with the
that's
YMCA.
fine.
I will say that George mentioned to me a while back that they were considering some fencing possibilities on the pavilion side. So I don't know if some of that's going to go through or not. If you want to do something, what I would encourage you to do is just send it to DOT and let DOT do the study and decide what they recommend. Because they're strict.
Right, and that's one reason I brought it up. I think Aldridge has a comment.
Well, I just wanted to thank you. I can't say what was done in 4 or 5 years ago, but I know about probably 2.5 years ago, I brought it up, and we actually had the chief set up the speed trailer down there, and it was determined at that point that they were doing 33, 35, 38, but I still think a lot of residents, when they see that 35-mile-an-hour sign, they're going to push it to 42, 45, and I think that to Councilmember Hall's point, when you have cars on both sides of that street, even if you didn't have cars on both sides of the street, 45 miles an hour is way too fast, I think, to be traveling through that area of town. And also to that point, if we're 20 miles an hour all the way down to Old Charlotte, where you don't have a majority of younger folks and children crossing the street, it doesn't make sense to not have it lower up where we have the highest concentration of kids, in my opinion.
And adults.
So I'm hearing that you want to send it to council. To DOT, I would prefer a motion.
Move that we send DOT a letter requesting the designation of North 2nd, strike that North 1st Street to 25 miles per hour between CB Crook and...
So you're requesting them do it rather than study it?
If somebody wants, I don't care either way, okay? I mean, if there's one that's better than the other, I would just ask that we do it.
I think we do.
I just think that we do it. Study something to do.
Have a motion by Councilmember Hall.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Aldridge. Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vote against it. I hate speed limits of any kind, anywhere.
I'm totally in favor of the safety of children. I think DOT may look down upon it because of they use that road to move traffic through town.
That's the way I would have it. Get the traffic through.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
My husband will.
Motion approved.
Well, you know, when I go through, I'm driving slow because I'm expecting.
There's just too many cars.
Number 19, consider adoption of ordinance 8. Excuse me. Number 21. You may have saw that the town hall meeting is no longer a town hall meeting. It's now a town hall dinner that they will be hosting at night from like 5:30 to 8:30. Is that what time's Michael? 5:30 to 8:30? 6:30?
It's 5:30, 8:30.
5:30, 8:30. That does make it tough on council to go, getting home at probably after 11 o'clock. I do think we should have some kind of representation. This will be a little bit of an unusual year for us because we'll be transitioning our senator, and I don't know whether others will attend or not attend. It's a brand new event, so it's hard to say what's going to happen at that event.
And you hate to drive all the way up there and neither one of them are even there for whatever reason.
But if I might, we know that Albemarle will no longer have Tom McGinnis. Okay? We know that. We know that the two folks that are running that would be our state senator, one of them is already there anyway because he's in the House. So if he wins the primary, he will be there, and it will be our first opportunity to meet him because there's no...
You do think he will show up for it?
I can't... I mean, I don't know that for sure,
that
but
would be my question. Will they even
he
show
is a
up
member
for it?
of the House right now, and my assumption would be that he would show up. Now, that is the Carl Ford that's a member of the House who is running for Senate. I am not speaking of our current House member. I'm not sure there. Okay?
There is a primary before that.
That's right.
And there's
that's true. So I'm not sure. But the other thing that we have to play with that Michael and I have been in discussion about is that that is the same night as our county COG meeting. And I have said to Michael that I think he needs to reach out to other folks within the county because more than not, there will be some other municipalities that will want representation. So,
Mayor, to me, just to go down there for a dinner just isn't worth it. I would think that maybe we ought to get a bus and go down and have an appointment with them some other time and have a specific meeting with our senator and whatever.
I do think we need representative to go to it, but I don't know that it's necessary that everyone go.
I just don't see that.
Anyone who's interested in going, Mike? Let's do it that
Michael,
way.
I'll be there.
I'll plan on it. Okay.
And
We work.
And
It's a little hard when you're working. Well, if I was retired. I can't.
All right. Coming around the horn, I'll start by saying thank you to all of our staff for what they did last night. Not only did it involve electrical and public works, but I'm sure other departments were involved too. I'm sure police and fire had to come out and on some of the calls with all the trees we had down. So thank you for everybody for what you did. I know that a lot of you were out all last night and again all day today before you got to go home. But thank you very much, and I'm sure most of the public is grateful to have their power back. Unfortunately, it was unforeseen circumstances with Duke Power where a lightning strike took out our substation that feeds from Duke Power, and yet they had a lot of power still on the Duke Power substation. But it took them a couple hours to get that back. I guess we were very fortunate to get it back in that amount of time, to be honest with you. And we had a lot of trees down around town. You're going to see a lot of cleaning up over the next few, probably weeks, and a lot of damage downtown with glasses blowing out. So it's going to take a little while to get back. But thank all of our crews thank you for what you did. Michael?
One item. At the last meeting, we discussed an open house for Central School Auditorium. So I've been in contact with Parks and Recreation Director Lisa Kaiser, and we have a few days for council to consider and a few times. We've got Friday, May 18th, Thursday, June 7th, or Friday, June 8th. The reason there's some gap in there is because we've got some events already scheduled to use the auditorium and then a possibility of some more, so we're working around what's committed, what's potential. So that's Friday, May 18th, Thursday, June 7th, or Friday, June 8th.
No.
And we can do, a lunchtime, 11:30 to 1, say open house, or 5 to 6:30, 5:30 to 7.
If you're wanting the public to show up, you're probably going to have to go at night, I would think.
And is June 7th, 8th, is that right around the end of school?
And
Yeah, you're right at the end of school
Graduation.
too. So
that's a good time.
I think, to be honest with you, I think we'd be better off pushing it on back toward the end of June.
Yeah, and I think we need to do it like on a Thursday night instead of a Friday.
Friday night
You're
would
gonna have
not
people
work.
going out of town for vacations and things like that.
We'll look at some more dates and bring that back to council at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
let's get
we'll have
a few
to
like
look
the
at
last
that.
week of June. I'm gone completely.
And I think I'm gone the second and third week of June. So we'll have to look at some more dates and just come back.
We'll look at the end of June, preferably Thursday.
What about fall? What about doing something in the fall? I mean, everybody's going in 10 different directions.
Yeah, summertime's going to be a hard time to do it and get people to show
If we
up.
don't do it in June, we have to
When is it
wait.
going to be ready? I mean, when would it be ready to show?
It's ready now.
I think we need to.
Got some rental schedule.
They're booking it.
We need to do it. We need to do it. Even
It's scheduled. I mean, they're using it.
What could we have it open for a certain point of time on May the 12th? Would that be possible?
May the 12th.
that's downtown beach blast.
Oh, yeah, you can do that.
I'm just,
But if you're going to, I don't know that you'll get many people to come over there. But I think if you don't have an event where you're going to serve refreshments, you're not going to get people to come.
If you feed them.
Need to have somebody up there singing.
I like that, though. I like that thinking.
Well, you don't want to pull people away from downtown either.
No, but it's if you're going to have events that day, you've got the race and you're done at 10. You've got the Wag Fest at the Y.
Walk on by.
Walk on by on the way to the Y.
Oh, Martha.
Walk on by on the way to the Y.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I like that.
We'll bring it back
idea.
next meeting.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it some
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Anything further, Mike?
That's it.
Mr. Townsend?
No comments.
That's you?
I would just like to reiterate also what you said. I appreciate all the staff. I know it was more than just, the power people and the public works. There was a lot of people at work. I would like to let everybody know that April 18th is National Lineman Day.
Yeah.
And I really, unfortunately, we do not, the lineman program at Stanley Community College has not been able to have classes the last couple of years. They cannot find an instructor.
That's right.
So hopefully we can find an instructor and get that program going again.
Yes.
It was in the
so
paper.
Thank you, linemen.
That is going to be a definite need throughout the state. It's been recognized it's going to be a very much a shortage in the
I would
coming
hope
years.
it would be awesome if one of ours that would retire would like to teach it, but I don't know, But anyway, just remember your linemen on the 18th.
Mr. Aldridge?
No, sir.
Ms. Hall?
No.
Mr. Dry?
Just ditto to your comment. Thank you for everybody. I don't know. I was out last night for a couple hours just driving through over the western and northern part of our district, and the presence was there, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I know the citizens do as well. You do a great job.
Mr. Whitten?
That was an odd storm. I've seen a lot of trees down, but I've never seen it blowing windows out like that. The only thing I had was just, if anybody else has noticed this, we discussed a few months ago parking on Fifth Street at 5 Points, along the side there on Fifth Street. Do we? I was there the other night. There was a car parked all the way to the curb.
4th Street?
What?
I'm sorry, 4th Street.
Okay.
Yeah,
4th Street. All the way to the curb. And there was another car sitting at the stoplight, and there was a car could not turn in.
Okay, help me with where we're talking.
Right across from, beside Roger Martin's.
Okay, we allow it on that side of the
But it was
street.
parked all the way.
It was parked all the way to the corner.
To the curb, so you couldn't turn.
So I just wondered if anybody else, and it was not me, I was parked in front of him, but, I didn't block traffic.
I mean, we had that discussion one time before. We had that area so many feet back that you couldn't park there. But I think council decided last time not to do any action on that. So if you want to do that little area right there, we'll have to bring an ordinance back to council.
But let me just add one thing. I think we have in our code book a general ordinance that covers all streets that says you can't park, I think it's within 15 feet of an intersection, just because of that very issue. Even if parking is allowed on the street in general, you get this particular issue. So if it becomes a problem, we could maybe do some things to, most corners people know not to park right to the corner, but in this location you're fighting for a spot. So if worse comes to worse, we can post a sign or paint the curb right there yellow. That's just, we don't have to do that just everywhere, but people are really struggling to find spaces, so we could do that if that becomes an ongoing problem.
Probably I'm not
without an
aware of it
ordinance.
is. I just noticed it happened the other night. Thought I'd bring it up in case that comes up anywhere.
Mr. Bramlett.
Just want to kudos to ADDC Design Committee for cleaning out the alley between the Falling Rivers and the buildings on 2nd Street. The other thing is, I think we need to monitor auditorium usage. Keep an eye on that, because I'm hearing a lot of complaints about the fees, the level of fees that we're charging for that. So let's just see how. And I know you probably know that the proposal was made to the community college that they go for a 500-seat auditorium, which we decided not to do. But I'm just saying those are things in the wind. Let's see just how many people pay that fee and use the auditorium. Keep an eye on it.
Ms. Hollis, you got something there?
Yes, two things. Each of you should have gotten in the mail. This is Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. You should have gotten in the mail an invitation to the Butterfly House Breakfast on Friday, April 27th. And this is for anyone in the audience. This is something that they do, the Butterfly House does. Amy Yao sent me a text today and said, please remind people, if you've gotten it and not responded, please respond. And if you've not gotten one and would like to go, she would love for folks to be there beginning at 8 o'clock on the 27th at the hospital. The program will start at 8:30. That's a Friday. And just a general reminder that we do have a meeting with the planning board Wednesday night, and we do have one issue on the agenda. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, we will adjourn to that Wednesday night meeting.
Okay, very good. Just a reminder there. And lastly, I don't know how many of you got out to the Ag Center on Saturday to the recycle event of stuff. I know that Dan went out his first time out and waited in line for about 45 minutes and did not get it delivered because the line was so long at the beginning of the day, but finally got it taken care of. But it was a long line of people out there early in the day.
Anyone in the audience have anything come before council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
What?
You better hurry.
I just want to ask one thing. First of all, I want to thank you all who sent some money to the Butterfly House, because they said we were the first ones that got any money. So thank you if you already sent it. Second of all, I'm still looking for a place to practice to dance, and I wondered if I could use one of the hallways here.
Use the hallway.
I don't see any problem.
I guess that's Michael.
Well, I'm Devil. What kind of shoes you using? Real shoes? I mean, dance shoes?
They're not tap shoes or anything.
No, they're not dance shoes.
No. I mean,
soft bottom shoes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be anything that would hurt anything.
Soft shoes.
I'm not. Yeah.
Soft shoes. Because you'll slide and go sliding out there.
I think that's Michael's call.
Yeah, Michael will work out the rent with you.
I was asking free.
I'll entertain a motion. We go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 31811, A3, 4, and 5 to consult with the city attorney, economic development, and real estate. Have a motion by Councilmember Dry.
So moved.
Second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Oh my God. Yep.
Somebody give me a motion to reconvene.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Hughes. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. If you will make
Made
it.
the motion I just made.
Yes, sir. Please do it again. I'll make sure we're legal. Mr. Bramlett makes a motion that we pay Well Drilling Company in the Ronnie Hatley case on Shawnee Gap Road for drilling a well and closing an existing well up to and not to exceed $6,100. Second was
Whitley.
Councilmember Whitley. Further discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Make sure we're legal. All right. Anything else come before council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn until Wednesday night, the Rosebriar, for a meeting with the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hughes, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.